Here's a book I wanted to bring to your attention. It's called The Shadow Murders, a Department Q novel by a man named Jussi Adler Olsen. Jussi Adler Olsen is a Danish writer. He's written plays, a bunch of novels, and the main series of novels that he's written are Department Q novels. Now, the interesting thing about Jussi Adler Olsen's books is not that they're really filled with a lot of violence. Instead, the thing that's distinguishing about the books is his focus on the mental states of the various people that are in it. And what that comes from, apparently, is that his father was a psychiatrist, and he grew up in a bunch of mental institutions where I guess they had official lodging for the doctors who worked in them. And his father was a doctor, he worked in them. And so Jussi Adler Olsen got to see a lot of really, frankly, weird people. And they show up in his books quite a bit. Now, Department Q, which appears in the title of the book, is the cold case unit in the Copenhagen Police Department. It was formed, as a result of some bureaucratic politicking, and it started out with just two guys. The hero, a guy named Karl Mork, and his assistant, a Syrian refugee named Assad. Now, Jussi Adler Olsen, I didn't realize this until I saw an interview with him on YouTube. He intended the Department Q novels to be a sort of a 5,000-page saga that he would write. And this book is the second to last volume in this series. So there's another one coming, and as a matter of fact, at the end of the book, there's a kind of a lead-in to what's going to be the final book. So anyway, Department Q, cold case unit. Karl Mork, the main guy, is a character who's sort of like Harry Bosch in the Michael Connelly books, or Harry Holt in the Joe Nesbo books. He's a misfit, is what he is. As his buddy, the other guy who starts it all off, named Assad. Assad is a Syrian refugee, and there are hints in several of the books that he had a particularly, sinister past. Now, these two main guys, Karl Mork and Assad, end up being joined by two other people, all four of whom are going to form this Department Q. And the other two is a woman named Rose and another guy named Gordon. And of course, the common characteristic that they all have is that they're all misfits. So this is the second last book in what's going to be a 5,000-page saga about this cold case unit. Now, the crime, and as a matter of fact, in Jussi Adler Olsen's books, all the crimes are really, really imaginative. And as I've said, there's plenty of violence in the books, but it's not graphic. It doesn't, you don't feel like putting the book away from you because it's so gruesome. Instead, these are really imaginative things. Now, in this one, what you have is a kind of a cult of women who are trying to redress the wrongs of society and trying to punish assholes. Now, the majority of the women who are in this thing are doing low-level stuff, tripping guys on the street, figuring out ways to get back at the guy who cuts in line in the movies, that kind of stuff. The people who are actually running this thing, what they do is they go after big-time bad guys, and they perform one murder every 2 years. And the bad guys are like a corrupt politician. The guy who ends up being the central victim in this book is a guy who produces all kinds of really low rent, low level reality TV shows. And the book is exciting. All of Jussi Adler Olsen's books have very, very clever, well-written, well-drawn plots. And as I say, what you get in his books is a considerable amount of mental weirdness, to say the least. And this book really gets you thinking about things like religion and morality. The book, I think, is a page-turner. It certainly falls into this Scandinavian or Nordic crime genre, so to speak. But it's not, you don't get this sense of constant rain and cold and things like that. What permeates this one is COVID-19, because they're trying to solve a case, and they do it in under a month, trying to solve a case where they're dealing with COVID-19. Anyway, a very, very good book. Certainly recommended. I recommend him. I know it's part of this 5,000-page series. I didn't, I mean, I've read them in order, but it's a pure happenstance. I didn't know that they were all going to be linked. And I'm not sure that you really need to start at book number 1 and work your way all the way up. But that's probably a wise idea, because like with many of these guys, the earlier books, I think, are better than the later books. So anyway, there it is, The Shadow Murders, a Department Q novel, number 9 in the series, and by a man named Jussi Adler Olsen. I'll see you next week with another review on something. I don't know what it's going to be. Everybody, take care.